Semiconductors are what really makes the world go around. You have Nvidia pushing back into local highs recently, getting almost, as you can see here, back into that little downtrend we're sitting at, but ultimately into around 143 here on the day. And semiconductors as a whole just kind of kept running here. Now, we did see some weakness in a few names like AMD and AVGO, which we'll talk about today, but there's kind of a dark horse that was the real winner today. And again, we haven't talked a lot about him. And honestly, I've talked a lot of dirt on these guys. But again, they're shaping up to be one of the biggest and best semiconductor plays and quarter number one of the year. That's what we're going to discuss here on the day. Now, Nvidia, again, I've talked a lot about what's happening here. Earnings will be coming out not this week, but next week. So going to be pretty exciting. The name that we need to be watching, what's happening there, Blackwell chip, everything along those lines. We'll see exactly how that goes next week, and we'll be covering it pretty in depth. The thing I did want to talk about is just the technical aspect here of what's happening here on Nvidia. You can see that you're sitting still kind of with those lower highs being made going back to January 6th when you made that new all-time high slightly. The other thing that I will call out here as well is what's happening your 200 and your 100 SMA on the daily. You can see the 200 were well above that. We talked a lot about that here, but now you're just back above the 100 and you're rejecting at 140.7, which was your previous high from June, which was a very big level in my opinion. So if you can hold back above that again, in my opinion, you start to break back above this and push back into 148 and 152 all-time highs. But until then, that's kind of what we're watching. So short term, as long as we're above 135, 136, I'm still really bullish on the name. Any dips are buying opportunities. And it is worth mentioning near the end of the day, on the day, we're still looking at NASDAQ, QQQ, and the S&P 500 SPY pushing into all-time highs. So this morning, you obviously see some of that gap up into all-time highs. You dip back down, and then you buy right back up here at the end of the day. You go into SPY, you can also see here as well. You end the day at all-time highs. Another great outing. So again, it's worth mentioning, stocks are bullish. The NASDAQ hitting all-time highs only really does it when Nvidia is pushing highs. Semiconductors are at highs as well. So what you would like to see. But again, the big thing that I want to talk about though, what is happening across the board and what's going to happen moving forward. Now, again, we talked about tariffs and how I think we're in the clear as far as tariffs are concerned in the short term towards Nvidia and the semiconductors. I think we have at least 2 to 3 weeks before tariffs become an issue or a situation, which isn't a long time. But I do think we can get some upside until that is, a concern. So that's a big thing that we have to be focused on right now. Now, again, I keep telling you guys, if we're looking to go long on a specific sector or name, you want to focus on stronger names. So when we look at something like AMD, for instance, right? AMD has been very, very weak. Now, I will say AMD is trying to get out of the trenches, right? But what I will say is that you're still in this downtrend. I want to make sure it's very, very clear to see. You can see ideally what's happening. There was a short-term trade down there, but you can still see making lower lows and lower highs. We can break back above 122. Maybe we push back into the 100 SMA, but that being said, we're getting pennies on the dollar. Nothing really great coming in there. Another big visual is AVGO. Has been really strong, but kind of broke down here on the day, sitting around 228. Above 238, I think you're pushing into all-time highs. Again, you really only saw buying occur on the market today on names like Nvidia. Nvidia is what really was running for the better part of the day and then slowed down in the second half of the day. But where things got really interesting across the board and where we really need to talk about today as well is what's happening with the dark horse here. And this name, I will say, has been trash, right? But it's Intel. Now, Intel over the weekend was very interesting because you were coming into some pretty big points. We kind of talked about this as well in a previous video. You're coming back into your 2023 lows and your 200 SMA right there. But you opened up on the day right above that level. And as you see here, you got above that level and then you made an ascending triangle and then broke out once again. Which again, if you were in Discord, we talked about this vaguely as well, as always. So again, if you go into Discord really quick, let me bring it over so you can see. Again, going into Intel, you can also see what's happening there. We mentioned it right here. So again, we mentioned the ascending triangle right here. And again, we mentioned a little bit before, but breaking out as well. So Intel is really doing its thing. And after this, you're probably running towards $28.5 to $28 or $29 roughly. So that's where I'm kind of looking at Intel to move into. But why is it moving based on this and what's really the upside potential here? Now, right now, and what I'm assuming is why you're getting downside on AVGO, if you are unfamiliar, Typically when you see acquisitions get mentioned, those stocks do get hit. So if I look at what's happening with AVGO, go look at TSM, both of them, really had some downside to start the day, gapping down. TSM found buying. I think TSM also is a big buy here. So I do want to make that abundantly clear as well, but very important to mention. Now, as we step into this though, why is Intel doing so well? Now, Intel we talked vaguely about this, right? Intel potentially getting bought out as a company. Now, we said that this would be the most bullish outcome for the company, is that they started to get bought out and they started getting acquired. They mentioned basically in October they were going to wait till after the election before they made any decisions. Well, it's seeming like more and more this is going to happen. Now, the Trump administration is really pushing for this to happen as well, to get more of these chips built here in America. Make America, like make chips in America again, something along those lines. That's the tagline coming into this. But you're not just seeing one company do the takeover. You're seeing it kind of being slowly, and it's not a complete takeover. It's certain plants and certain things getting manufactured now by TSM, getting manufactured by AVGO. Now, these are just bids currently coming in, but it's looking like a 2-company buyout happening here. And again, it's not going to be overall of Intel. It's just specific parts of the company, kind of chopping it up like a chop shop, right? So again, why is this happening? Why is this bullish? Because you're probably going to see more bids coming in. And in my opinion, once those bids come in, you'll probably see a slowdown on the hype of the stock overall. But again, Intel is having its best, I think, 2-day stretch. 5-day. This is your biggest 5-day gain in history on Intel. And I want to mention something that, like, for anyone that's like, Intel, I will say this is still very bad on Intel for long-term looking at it. So don't get overhyped. You're literally back at levels from 2009. And going back a week ago, you were sitting at levels from 1998, literally a year after I was born. So again, it's not like you're very bullish and like this is one of the best looking names overall. You're just getting some momentum in the short term. And again, what I'd be looking for is closer to that level right up here, $29. Then you have a 28.9 level back going back here. But what I'd be watching along these lines right now, very likely push towards $30 though when we look at Intel, especially as this news develops further and further. And this is really what you would want to see if you were long on Intel. So really what I'm watching. And again, if I'm looking for any type of pullback here, simply put, you want to see a retest of this previous high right there at 26.4. That would be your biggest buying opportunity, in my personal opinion. But as a whole, looking at semiconductors, you look at SMH, I still think you look really good overall. Like you're getting back into 256. You need to hold above 256, 256.5 to be bullish. Good close at the end of the day. Worth mentioning after hours, you are on the downside. A little bit deeper into what's happening with the S&P and Qs, some of the biggest names out there. Now, one of the big names we've been talking about is Baba, but also we've kind of like haven't covered Apple as much recently. Apple is doing amazing. And if you look at the action that's happening on NASDAQ and the S&P, I will say a large part of this movement is due to Apple bouncing back so strong since it received the news of Baba. I covered Baba a little bit earlier in the earlier video, so you can go check it out if you want. But again, Apple looks pretty much incredible. Now, I do want to mention something really quickly if you are interested. If you guys are interested in joining Discord, the link is down below. You guys can check it out. But again, this is what we do every single day. We're in Discord, in voice chat, the chat as well that we have in there, going over all of our trades and different opportunities in the market. So you'll get updates before any other platform that we release it on. And then also you get able to ask me and Jordan questions throughout the day, who runs everything with me. And then if you also do the Premier access, you will actually get access to the text alerts and then more access inside Discord as well to more exact entries and things along those lines for scalping, day trading, everything in between. Futures are included as well. So again, the link is down below. But again, looking at Apple is something that I think is an absolute monster here. And I just covered this as well at the end of the day in Discord, is that you came back into your little previous highs here from Thursday, bounced right off of it, finding buyers coming back into this. Apple still looks incredible. It's going for your next target right up here around 147, 148 roughly. So again, I expect this to hit pretty soon. Why is this important? Apple moving like this, it's going to carry the NASDAQ, carry the S&P back into highs as well, which inherently is good for semiconductors as a whole and the rest of the market. The one name that I'm looking for to continue up on semiconductors that's slacking right now is AVGO. I think it will bounce back. And I think as long as semiconductors are bullish, AVGO is inherently bullish as well. Another name here, again, like I mentioned, TSM. I think it's a beast here also. Again, coming back near your 100-day moving average. I think it's a big buy as long as it's above $200. This is really what you want to see as well. Again, a lot of the names we talk about, been some smaller caps, some mid caps, and large caps. It's about finding that opportunity out there. And again, as I look at TSM, you can see the little bit of the downtrend that you have been in for a little bit of time here. But again, I still like this a lot. I think TSM can start running back towards 212. AVGO, big fan of this as well, but you need to see buyers get back involved. Right now, a little bit lackluster. So keep your head on a swivel here. But Nvidia has been the big dog. But again, you want to see Nvidia get back above the 140.7 level as well. Overall, those are the biggest, best names we're watching right now. If you watched our previous video from the day before, a quick recap on those names. Obviously, BABA pushing back up, got a dip buying opportunity. Coinbase, we talked about Coinbase and MicroStrategy being bearish. Coinbase is the one that we focused on today. You got below 272 and dropped straight down to 260, 261. Another big winner there. Across the board, we've had some big plays that have played out pretty awesome overall. So again, we're happy with what's happened and the traction that's taking place. But the thing that I'll say to most of you guys that are following, watching, whatever it may be, is don't be greedy with your positions. When you start to make money, start to trail your stops, start to take a little bit of profits as you're going. You don't want to get caught up and then not secure any of those gains and then eventually take it as a loss because you got greedy. Right now, the market has been whipsawing. You've had crazy reactions from Trump. You've had crazy reactions just in geopolitical news. So I encourage people to take profits because anything can happen in this market and you're not promised continuation, especially right now. I will say the NASDAQ is at all-time highs. The S&P 500 is at all-time highs. So there's no reason to start getting bearish just yet. But overall, this is what you want to see in the market. So again, don't be greedy. Take advantage of what you're getting and what the opportunities are in front of you and continue to, again, focus on good plays, not be greedy, and really do your own due diligence and take responsibility for the trades that are in front of you and what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for every single trade that you take. If you have any questions, comment down below. Another video coming out tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.